Let's see. Okay, we live. All right, let me get all set up here. We talking Last of Us. We talking Last of Us. Let me see if this works right. Let me see. Hold on. I got my notes. Turn this up a little bit. I think we're good. Boom, 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 boom. Waiting for some people to arrive. Then we're going to get into the first question that y'all had. Let me pull that up. Let's see. There we go. Here are the questions that I've pulled from this recent video that I was making about The Last of Us. And yeah, we got some comments to talk about. Y'all can leave some comments in the chat too. We're just going to be talking about Last of Us Season 2. That's what we're going to be talking about. So let's get into this first one here. So Demigod Rare said Bella does not look intimidating to any degree. Okay, look, this is a topic that everyone was talking about going into season 2, that would Bella Ramsey be able to pull off being Ellie, a grown version of Ellie? Because, you know, she looks so young. She looks, you know, she doesn't look scary like Ellie should in season 2. Now, here's the thing. I was wondering, I was going to wait until we got to the Nora scene to see if she could pull off being extremely angry, right? To see if she could look menacing, which she did. Bella Ramsey killed that. Bella Ramsey looked extremely menacing. So I think, but here's the thing, I agree. I don't think Bella Ramsey comes off as intimidating in the show. I don't think she does, but I don't think it's her fault. I think it's the writer's fault that she doesn't seem intimidating, because we saw, acting wise, how she could be menacing, how she could be intimidating. But for whatever reason, they wanted to make Ellie kind of more bubbly, right? Kind of more, just not as dark, not as, you know, because Ellie in the game, she's supposed to mirror Abby. They're both supposed to be kind of wild, kind of crazy, doing the most. And it's like they didn't want that to happen in the show for some reason. And I don't understand why they would do that with her character, because of how important it is thematically for her to mirror Abby. So that's kind of interesting. So to Demigod's point here, saying that Bella does not look intimidating to any degree, I agree and disagree. I feel like she's not intimidating, but it's not her fault. It's the writer's fault. And that she, as an actress, can definitely actually pull off being intimidating. I do. I think she could do that for sure. But here we go. Next comment by Santi Palmer. Bella's amazing. I agree. Nora's scene was on point, but the writing and creative direction turned the story more into a melodrama rather than the original darker thriller drama, hard to enjoy as a player. Okay, I just read this one right here. That's where we're at. This is where we're at. Interesting. So I feel like that's what I was saying, right? It's the writing, right? But it being a melodrama rather than an original dark thriller drama. I do think so. Another thing I've noticed is it feels like they're really trying to ship Ellie and Dina hardcore, right? Like they're really trying to make it feel like that's the show. Like it's like a romantic kind of show. And so I agree they did kind of switch the genre, because Ellie and Dina's relationship in the game, not that it was an afterthought, but I don't think it was as in your face as prevalent as it is in the show. And so yeah, I think they probably did that for a reason, because when you have a big fandom, fans like to ship different characters and all that together, and the relationships are extremely important. It feels like they kind of fed into that quite a bit. I don't know if y'all agree with that. Y'all can let me know if you agree with that or not. But yeah, like I said, it's definitely not dark. It's not nearly as dark as the game. So here we go. Next comment I saw on here that I wanted to talk about from the Gabson. Last of Us 2 is my favorite video game, but it's not perfect. I never thought HBO would ruin the source material. I actually thought they would fix the issue of the game. Okay, so here's my thing. I know when The Last of Us 2 came out that there was a lot of scrutiny. There was a lot of backlash. A lot of it was completely unwarranted to me, because I feel like a lot of it was rooted in some bigotry. But of course, nothing is perfect, right? But I've always been, from the very beginning, I've been a huge fan of the game. I didn't have any type of, I was not outraged by Last of Us 2 at all. But I do find it funny how there was so much outrage for the game, but now so many people are defending the game with the show. I found that kind of interesting. But yeah, to the second point of this comment, it says, I never thought that HBO would ruin the source material. I actually thought they would fix the issue of the game. Yeah, so when we started the season, I thought that when we started the season, we saw the changes from the game. I'm an optimist sometimes with media, especially when everyone else is shitting on media. I try to give it the benefit of the doubt, right? And so I was hoping that by the end of the season, the changes would have a payoff. Now, I know we still have 2 episodes left, but there really hasn't been a payoff to a lot of the changes. I don't see where it's going. I don't know. So a lot of the changes feel extremely unnecessary. And like, for example, I think when The Last of Us is at its best as an adaptation is when they add things to the game, like give context or just build upon something that was in the game that we didn't really get to explore. For example, the Bill and Frank episode, right, in season 1. Things like that, I feel like, is when the show is at its best. Or even the scene in this last episode where they introduce the spores again, like at the very beginning, that cold open. Stuff like that is when the TV show is at its best. And so I feel like they should just stick to that, because the narrative of Last of Us is so good already. Just expand upon it. You don't got to change it. Just make it even better, right? Expand, don't change, right? There's just no need to, outside of obviously like some things in a video game can't translate onto the screen. I get that. But yeah, for sure. Okay, let's see. Next question up here. We have Rullies 2020. Well said about how it just doesn't feel the same too. I've played the game a few times now, and I've always had the same feelings. Those feelings are important to the story and for the audience to reflect on. This season, we aren't going to get that. This season, we aren't getting those moments to reflect on because the writers are not trusting the audience anymore. Okay, let's talk about the writers not trusting the audience, because that is a valid point. Now, stick with me. I'm not getting off topic here. I saw an article where Netflix, that they were saying something like Netflix wants their writers to write, keeping in mind that a lot of people that are watching Netflix shows are also on their devices. So they want the dialogue written in a way where people can be on their phone and still be paying attention to what's going on the show. So essentially just walking them through what's happening through the dialogue, right? And it feels kind of like that in this show, where they're telling so much. There's so much exposition. They're showing so much up front, like Abby's motivation and all that kind of stuff. They even have that therapist in there whose whole point is to literally tell us how the characters feel instead of showing us how the characters feel. And once again, I don't know if this is in response to the backlash of that the game got, where they're like, know what? We're not leaving anything up to chance here. Like, we're just going to tell it like it is. We're going to make the story easier to digest. That's what it feels like, that they're making the story easier to digest. Well, they're trying to anyway, but in doing so, they're making a lot of the characters flat. They're making a lot of the moments flat, and it's just not hitting like it's supposed to. And 100%, some of that is to do with the fact that the writers are not trusting the audience. Okay, so now we're moving a little bit more down here. We have Ninja Douse. I think the issue many people like yourself are having is comparing it to the game. Familiar story, but different telling. You compare it, you will always be disappointed. Why many folks who haven't played are enjoying it, and many that have are complaining. Okay, valid. They always say comparison is the thief of joy. So I agree with you. However, I will say when things like this happen in game, like when something gets adapted, right, it's because it has so much demand for the source material. Okay. And so I think at bare minimum, when you're adapting something, the heart of the story needs to stay the same, right? The feeling that the story puts out there has to be the same. Okay. And I feel like with a lot of the changes that are being made, it's like it doesn't, Last of Us Season 2 just doesn't feel like the game at all. Season 1 felt like the first game for sure. Season 2 does not feel like Last of Us Part 2. And I think that's the problem. And like, that's where the comparison always comes from. Like, we can point out this detail or that detail, or point out this is different and that's different. But at the end of the day, a lot of the complaining just comes from, this just doesn't feel right. This show just does not feel right. It doesn't feel how it's supposed to, because this is how the game made you feel. This is how the TV show made you feel. And they're just completely different. Yes, adaptations are going to change things. They got to, because they're shifting between mediums. But you got to keep the essence of it the same, as close to the same as possible. And it seems like with this season, they just didn't care about that. Once again, I brought it up a lot, maybe because of the backlash. Maybe they just didn't want all that backlash again. Maybe HBO didn't want it. I don't know. I have no idea. All right, last comment here, and y'all can leave comments, and I can answer a few more other than these ones that I have pre-written down here. But we have, what happened? We have Viv the Science Kid right here. I agree the tone's completely different, but I analyzed it like so. The game requires an intensity from Ellie at the start, a desire for violence that causes separation between her and her companions. It's necessary for two reasons in the gameplay: get more solo player time, no allies, and justify her murderous rampage. She's obviously not going to kill dozens from the very start unless she's extremely full of rage. I think they're trying to go for a more dramatic shift, starting from her feeling optimistic and having a vague sense of justice to becoming consumed by her rage and desire for revenge. I can see them going for a more intense character change. I personally prefer the game story better so far, but I can understand it. Okay, this is a good comment right here, Viv the Science Kid. Because let's talk about it. That was really good. If they were going for a slow burn of rage, right? Starting Ellie off, being more, I don't know, depressed than, full of anger or rage or something. If they were doing that, I feel like the structure of the show is still off, because you want to see a steady rise of that anger bubbling underneath the surface until it boils over, right? Typically before it boils over all the way, like in the Nora scene, there's, inklings of, damn, like she's about to break. We did not get that, because she kept running away from everything, like running. And, I'm going to make a video about this, but she's been running away from everything. And it's because they've had hordes of infected instead of just a few here and there that they could just take out. They've run into too many wolves at the same time. They're always having to run away from the wolf people, had to run away from the scars. They're always running away. Anyway, so she hasn't been able to express her anger really in any way. She hasn't blown up on Dina. She hasn't blown up on anybody, right, outside of Nora. And so if they were trying to go for a slow burn of rage in the show rather than Ellie kind of going 0 to 100 real quick in the game, because she's just so obsessed with vengeance and revenge in the game. If they didn't want to do that, they should have had it boil over the, the course of the episodes and she just went but see, the thing is, they went 0 to 100 real quick anyway with Nora. So they kind of failed at that, if that's where they were going. They failed at that. And I think, what I'm hoping for, I know episode 6 is just a flashback of her and Joel, which I'm not doing spoilers here. But if that's taking up the whole episode, then the finale is going to be extremely, extremely rushed. They have so much to do in the finale to get to the point where I think they're going to end it before, because they're splitting the game into 2. I don't know how they're going to get through the finale. I have no idea. So, yeah. But anyway, I'm hoping that going into season 3, they're kind of seeing some of the feedback and how people wanted to stick a little closer to the game, and they're able to nail that going into season 3 at least. So we'll have a good season 1, good season 3 with a mid season 2. That's the best case scenario for me. But yeah, those were the comments I had to reply to. Appreciate y'all listening to this. Yeah, man. Until, yes, dang, it's already Friday. Sunday's coming up quick. But yeah, y'all can check out all my Last of Us videos on YouTube that I make. I break down every episode. And so I'll make another one on Monday after the episode drops. But until then, y'all, I'll see you.